throw away per week?
Think about the preparation.
Yeah, think about preparation and the things you throw away after you eat them or you think they should hold.
Yeah. That's a question.
20 kilos.
No, it's actually, in Latin America, it's around 4 kilograms.
Oh.
Which it's per person. So it might not seem much per person, but that's for 1 week. So multiply that by 52, and then multiply that by 7 billion. So you see it takes a toll on Earth.
And where do you think that all that trash goes to?
Oceans.
What?
Landfills.
Yes, most of it does go to landfills, and Brazil is the 3rd country in the world with the most amounts of landfills. It's not a good accomplishment. It's not something we should be proud of.
So, what percentage of landfills are composed of organic material?
That was me yesterday.
Fun fact, it was wrong. It said is. And she corrected it to us, but it's not okay. Anyways, how much do you think is composed of organic materials in landfills?
40%.
40%. Good guess. Around 60%. But it's a very significant amount.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, and how is this harmful?
Yes.
I think when it rots, it releases some gaseous substances, and it also harbors disease because of various just animals that live off of it. They will fly.
Indeed, it releases methane, and methane is more harmful than CO2. And also it's a subterranean water contamination, which is definitely.
So, for origin, we have to have a global issue, and this is an illustration of just the amount of food thrown away before production and after production. So, although after the food is like out in like a canteen, there's more waste like from plates. There is also very significant waste before it even comes out, like inside the canteen or inside the restaurant. So as you can see, Latin America, this one, actually has the highest amount of food thrown away during production. And so, in rich countries, around 222 million tons of food are thrown away during production, and the food that's thrown away in rich countries is almost as much as the entire food production in sub-Saharan Africa, which is around 230 million tons of food. And although those numbers are very large, they're small in comparison to the 2.3 billion tons of food that we throw away every year. And even in Latin America, where we have around 20% of the population below poverty line, we still waste enough food to feed 330 million people. So this just adds to the discrepancy that we have in Latin America. And why does this matter? I mean, does this food go into a magical void and just like goes away forever? No. It goes into landfills, and from landfills it generates methane, which is 32 times more harmful than CO2, and it becomes trapped heat within our atmosphere, aka global warming. So the organic waste mixed with other trash products produces leachate. And it leaks into underwater supplies, and then it contaminates rivers, oceans, and other bodies of water.
Okay, guys, so our study at the Pan American School of Bahia, we're not a very green school, so we of course had some issues regarding food waste. Our school, we waste about 3 to 5 200-liter bags of food waste daily, and that's a really huge amount for a school that has, in total, 800 students.
And that's before
Before prediction, before the prediction of food, this is what we waste inside the canteen. Also, we nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, which can, during the years, how do you say, degrade the soil, and it changes the alkalinity of it also. And also our school, because it's not very green, we're not very ecologically conscious and environmentally conscious. So these are the three problems we were trying to tackle our school with our club.
So before we get into more detail of our project, we want to give you a little bit of a background in our journey. Our group has been together for about 2 years, jumping from project to project, and that was mainly because we faced a lot of problems. Our first project was trying to create a garden in our school because we thought that would be a good addition, but unfortunately we reached a break point when the canteen said that they weren't open to the possibility of using the products that we were planting. So we were quick to come up with new ideas, and one of those was giving continuation to a previous gym project that our school had, which was involving the Salvador Dunes. The Salvador Dunes, you guys may not know this, but they're endangered. They're essential to our city, and they're endangered of being destroyed completely for the construction of a cargo airport. And while we were there, because they rely solely on donations, we were trying to figure out what were the things that we could do to maybe put in some budget cuts and help them out financially. But the previous group had done already so much, so the only idea we had was extending a compost that they already had. And when we gave this project to our previous gym mentor, she gave us a proposition, and that was, instead of expanding a compost that already existed somewhere else, creating a new one in our school, which would have a much larger effect. So we knew that we wanted to tackle food waste, and we knew that we wanted to do a compost and teach people to be more environmentally conscious. Like, what are you putting in your plate? How does that have an effect in our society? And so we were only left with the questions of how were we going to do that? Because we can't simply tell people to put less food in their plates. We cannot do that. So we had to create a plan, and yeah.
So what is compost? Well, compost is a very diverse word. You can actually use it as the material that comes out of the decomposition of organic materials. It could also be the name of the structure that allows the decomposition to happen, and it can also be the verb to compost. So why compost? Well, remember all those issues that we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. Composting is a simple, easy, practical, cheap, and effective way to solve one of the world's biggest issues very quickly. But how to make a compost? Okay. Well, actually, go back. There are various types of compost. There are composts that only use leaves. There are composts that use worms. There are composts that don't use worms. And each type of compost is best for a type of environment. If, for example, if you have a really big garden and lots of leaves, you'll probably want to do a garden compost instead of a stack composting, as we chose to do at our school. We chose this compost because it's small and it can really fit anywhere in a classroom or outside or basically anywhere. And it can also be used as a lesson material for smaller kids learning about ecology and ecosystems. So how to make a stacked worm composting. So first step, you need 3 containers. Second step, you need a hole in between these containers, but don't make holes on the bottommost of the boxes of the containers, because the bottommost will hold liquids, which is called worm tea, and is another type of fertilizer. Then you put a first layer of soil on the middle container, and then you add the worms, and you add a little bit more worms, and a little bit more. And we named all our worms Stephanie. Stephanie the first, the third, and the fourth. They're all in good health. Okay, so after you add the worms, you can start adding your green organic materials, which are all things that have liquids. For example, fruit peels, fruit pulp, well, anything that comes from things that were alive before and are completely dried up. And after you add the layer of green materials, you add a layer of brown materials, which can be leaves, sawdust, straw, anything that is dry. And after that, you can stack them up, and it will look something like this when you fill up the middle layer. And from there, you can fill up the top layer and wait for the middle layer to finish. The worms will do their job, and they will go up looking for food, so you don't have to worry like picking out worms from your compost. They will simply move up looking for more of the organic materials for them to decompose. And it's really important for this type of composting that you use red worms or California worms, as they are known in Brazil, because they are specialized in this type of process.
So let's have a little review of what we have said thus far and just understand more clearly what our aims are with this project. So we want to have very feasible but somewhat ambitious aims. To have a compost at PASB, which seems like a very simple task, but with the bureaucracy becomes arduous but rewarding. And we also want to stimulate students' involvement in environmental consciousness, because we can be the little hummingbird who drops a little drop of water, but we still want to get more hummingbirds to join us. So, and also without student involvement, projects can easily die. Like there are just projects who just stopped because there weren't students to continue it, so we have to get the community riled up. And we want to encourage urban composting. So we didn't want to just limit ourselves to our school and our families, but really provide a means for anyone to be able to compost as well and encourage them.
Which is also why we explained to you guys how to create a compost. You are the ones.
Emails or something.
Okay. So to accomplish these aims, there are a series of things that we have to do, and various groups within our school that we needed support of. The first one, and in my opinion the most important one, would be the canteen staff. The canteen, inside the canteen, we put a plastic bin, just separated, so that in the production of the meals, the canteen staff would be able to separate the materials that are usable for the compost, because there are a series of things such as meat and citric fruits that can't go to the compost. So they would separate it and put it into that bin, and they would be in charge of taking that back to their compost sites. So in the canteen, we would have the plastic bin, the trash bin. We also have a list of do's and don'ts, and we would also explain to the canteen staff what you should put in a compost, how to create a compost. So going back to the idea of urban composting and expanding that.
And this is Angela, and she's the R&D lady, and she's very helpful.
She was also
like, yes, I really want to do this project. And if it wasn't for her, we would probably have given up on it.
She's a very nice lady. Also, this process will start by only once a week, because as you've seen from the pictures, we only have a very small compost, which we are planning on expanding. But so we're only going to collect the materials from that trash only once a week at one afternoon from the start.
Also, we talked to the gardeners, which were another essential piece to our problem solving. And what we did, we went and contacted them regarding the fertilizers they were using at the school, regarding how the ground in our school was, how the soil was, and if they were willing to help us. And of course, they said yes. And what they talked about was the fertilizer that I previously mentioned, the NPK, and then we did further research to see how it was damaging our soil, because in PASB, our ground is not very beautiful, it's not nice, it's awful. And also in our school, because there are trees and everything, there are leaves that fall, and there are remains of grass, and these are called raw materials. Every day the gardeners, they collected them and they put it in one side of the school. But we talked to them to see if they moved it to another place next to where Angela would put the food. And with that, we would have both the materials essential to make our compost, and they said they were willing to help us.
Like I mentioned like 2 minutes ago, student involvement is very key to having successful projects. And I'll say this. We just happened to have the NHS, National Honor Society Communication Secretary, and the Student Scoop, our school magazine communication secretary, in this group, which is me. So we'll be through our school magazine, which is just starting, but people do read, advertising our project, through Friday assemblies, through just getting support made from NHS members because they need service hours every semester, and just a school community that wants to help. And but so far, I can't take the merit for publishing on Student Scoop because it was Sabrina who wrote a very good article that includes information about our project and all the gym projects from our school. So if you guys want to check out, you can read more, and it will probably have a link to our blog.
Yeah,
It has a link, so you can see all the steps and making compost and bring this project to like your houses and your school.
Okay, so
And just to add to that, in the assemblies, we plan on teaching the people from our schools, just like we did here, how to make a compost.
So our projects, well, these we showed you guys all of our plans, but up to this point, we have written a very good proposal, and we have edited it for the past 6 months with the help of the administration, and they have lots of worries, and well, we solved them all, and it's in process of approval for us to make the big compost. But while that isn't fully approved, we did take steps to further on our project. So as you can see, we did this mini compost, and here is what you can and what you can't do, so that people don't forget. And we're going to take this compost around to classrooms, especially 2nd grade, which is the teacher that is 3rd grade, sorry, that is teaching ecosystems, and she said that she would love to have a compost to help her students understand and see how controlled ecosystem works. And we have also done our site, which is fertilife5.lulu.com, and in it we have lots of information about various types of composting. We're tracking our progress through it. There are other sources in case you want to know more about gardening or composting. And here in composting, you can ask. Sure. Yeah. Then if you go in composting, there are lots of types of compost, and you can choose the best type for you. Everything's very descriptive. And if you guys have any questions, we have our contact email in there too.
Yeah. For our mini compost, we did it as part of our proposal as well. The administration was really worried about the smell and attracting animals and all that. And just to let you know, it does not smell. It does not attract any animals. It's like, it's really, really pretty. And also our website goes along with our theme of urban composting, because we are looking into the possibility of not only going into our schools to promote urban composting, but also to other schools as well.
So guys, how can you do the same? First, you have to ask yourselves a few questions. Please first see if your school has green ground for you to make a compost, otherwise you won't use the fertilizer you produce. Next, you should ask yourselves, what fertilizers are being used at your school? Are they harmful to the ground? Is the amount of food waste significant? Are you willing to go after the school faculty of the canteen and garden sites for their support? Where would you apply the fertilizer produced by the compost? Would it make a change in your school community? So as you have seen, our progress was long, and for us to get where we are wasn't easy. And this thing that if you're willing to do something, you should go after it, and if you're willing to make a change in your community, please do. This is important, as we have seen here in the whole conference, as we have seen previous years. These are subjects matters in our world, that matters. Even what we do will someday, even a year, if this continues, will matter to our environment. So, yeah.
One thing, when we were going around the school, we saw the little compost trash cans for organic waste, and we're going to be bringing this back to school. And it's even a good example for them, so our project gets approved more quickly, to show that it doesn't really smell, and students can actually support. Hopefully they do support it here, if not support it. And also, there's a girl from our school already in Beastie who's not in your group, who's already wanting to join it. So it just goes to show that there can be hope for students' enrollment and getting the community riled up to join their cause.
And I would also like to add that coming to Gin has inspired us, I think all of us, to really do something, because at this point, before coming to Gin, we were really uninspired to continue because of all the issues we faced. But now we see that it's okay to have issues. Everybody has them. And we will continue and try harder. And what we plan to do as soon as we get back is propose to a community service club, so that we can implement all of our gym groups together, because we have various gym groups, as you can see here, and to help each other.
Yeah, and also that would give sustainability to our project. And about the composting bins that we found here at EARJ, we were also really worried that our project wasn't involving the student body of our school aside from just environmental consciousness. We wanted them to have responsibility as well for what they are eating and the amount of food that they are actually throwing away that could serve other purposes. So that would be a great addition to our project. We are really excited about that. And that's just demonstrating